Two, one. Здравствуйте, товарищи, and welcome to. I'm not sure if this is going to be my third or my fourth installment of the Road to Badassery series. However, I'm here again with Rekatan. But before we begin actually coaching. If you will allow me to quote from the Emperor's Handbook by Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, I want to have a quote here that will inspire us going forward. So, here we go. In the end, what would you gain from everlasting remembrance? Absolutely nothing. So what's left worth living for? This alone: justice in thought, goodness in action, speech that cannot deceive, and a disposition of glad of whatever comes, welcoming it as necessary, as a familiar and is flowing from the same source and fountain as yourself.
All right.
So I hope that uh, brought up the that elevated our philosophical chops for this installment of our playing of Starship Craft. Anyway,
It's good. It prepared us for more conversation about whether Zerglings are sentient. So that's
exactly.
a good step.
Lots of I got some mixed responses about that. Like some people liked it, and some people was like, you should talk about the game more. I don't know.
Yeah, I even got some on the thread, and they were like, well, it seems to be distracting him from his gameplay. And I'm like, well, but we got to, be entertaining too. So it's a balancing act. How's the mic sound? It's a brand new mic, so is it good?
It definitely increased the S's, increased like that, or increased the quality, decreased that sort of S sound, like that weird S sound that it made. So it's definitely an improvement.
Okay. Yeah, I still need to work on my microphone boost because I'm noticing I still got some background fuzz, but
Yeah, you do have some background noise.
other than that, it's fine for now. So better than nothing.
I've actually changed my mic setup too. I bought like a vocal mic stand, and I've got it propped off to the side, and now the mic is like suspended in front of my face, so it's no longer on my desk. So that will decrease the sound of like my furious keyboard pounding.
Yeah, it was pretty heavy for our last one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. I was kind of looking at the feedback, and also I spent some time watching the recordings, and this actually helped bring some things up that I wouldn't have otherwise seen. So it's actually kind of cool to get to see our recordings from your perspective, because there were
Sure.
some things that are really hard to spot on a replay, but really easy to see from your point of view. So first off, the one thing I noticed right off the bat is your mouse scroll speed. Is that still at default?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. You'll probably want to start gradually bumping that up.
Okay.
Just because right now, if what you're currently at feels comfortable, then I guess rock on. But that I can't imagine that feels like it's up to the speed that you'd be comfortable at. I don't really necessarily feel like you're having trouble keeping up with that mouse scroll speed. So you might want to just kind of bump it up by, say, 5%
Sure.
every day until you find that point where you say, whoa, that's too fast.
Sounds like a plan.
I just max mine out because I don't really mind it over scrolling. It once in a rare while it does it, but usually I find it helps because then I can just kind of bump the edge of the map to move it. But
Where is mouse? There it is. It's in controls. Okay, I'm at only 20% actually. I don't know if that's.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty low.
Let's bump it up to 30.
Yeah, I would
Just
just
see how that works.
5 or 10% per day until you get to your comfort level. I would say anything less than 60% probably is going to be pretty slow for a master's level player.
Okay. Well, I've also got like one of those mouse or those mice that have you can adjust like the control speed on it. Like it's got like a plus and minus control speed, and it's set at +2 or whatever. So maybe that compensates for it a little bit. But yeah.
Well, the thing with the mouse scroll speed versus mouse sensitivity is the scroll speed in StarCraft 2 is completely independent of your sensitivity. So you could have,
okay.
yeah, you could be running, 500 DPI and 1% mouse sensitivity, but 100% mouse scroll speed, and it's going to take you like 10 scrolls across your mouse pad to get to the edge of the screen. But when you get there, it's going to be flying across the map.
I see.
So they're kind of two independent speeds.
Good to know.
Okay, so the next thing I noticed was we got you off of the F2 key, but I noticed now that's resulting in a couple things. First off, a lot of your units are sitting back at home without any control groups, and then you just box them and move them out when something comes up. And that puts you in a difficult position because it makes it really difficult for you to quickly navigate to those units. You got to click them on the mini map,
Hmm.
as opposed to, for example, if you have all your Zerglings and Roaches and Banelings on 2, you can just tap 2 twice and you're there. So that also applies to Mutalisks. I think we're ready to start moving you up to 2 control groups now for your
Okay.
army. So when you're on Mutas, or you might want to just figure a few different units that you consider to be high micro, really high maintenance units, and you want to make a special control group for them. I like to do Mutas on 1, or Infestors on 1, which can make a bit of a conflict if I'm going both, but I rarely go both. And then my kind of more traditional A-move friendly army on 2. So Zerglings are going to be there, Roach is going to be there, Roach Hydra is going to be there, Ling Baneling's going to be there, that kind of thing. And then my Queens on 5, which you don't have to do at all. I mean, that's just something special I do where 5 is kind of this universal hotkey for me in my late game because my Queens and my army go on the same hotkey after a while.
I see.
But yeah, the important thing there is just making sure that when your units spawn, there's 2 ways you can go about it. Either when they hit their rally point, you'll go ahead and box them and do a shift 2 or shift 1 or whatever number you decide on, and just kind of instinctively start to add those to the control group as you see them. Or you can add the eggs to the control group as they're hatching.
Hmm.
And
That seems like it'd probably be easier to do, at least for me.
well, it's a trade-off. I will say more and more the pros are starting to adopt that method, but it's something you weren't able to do in Brood War, so it's a very slow adjustment process. It's what I choose to do, but you're trading. You're using more actions at the time that you spawn the unit to have less actions involved later on, because now you're guaranteeing that the moment those units spawn, they're already following whatever command was recently given to your army, so they're going to rally a lot better rather than hanging out at your rally point and just sitting there idle. You're also not going to have to randomly just start grabbing them as they hatch and keep adding them in. You can just make a spawn cycle, shift 2 with the eggs, and you're good to go.
Yeah, that makes more sense to me, honestly. So I'm going to try doing that from now on.
Okay. So the one thing you want to keep in mind there is to try and, maybe not right away, I would say just for now get used to just making stuff and then you shift 2. But the problem with that is, let's say you make 8 sets of Zerglings, and then you run out of minerals and you've got 3 larvae remaining. And then you shift 2 and you just added 3 larvae and 8 eggs to your control group, and then those next 3 eggs turn out to be overlords. Well, now you've got a bunch of overlords slowly following your Zerglings around getting shot. So eventually you want to also mix into that process removing the excess larvae from the selection, but you probably want to do it in steps, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
First, just get in the habit of, hey, whenever I make stuff, let's add it to a control group as it's spawning. There was one other thing that's going to drive me nuts. Oh, the hatcheries. I was noticing it was kind of inconsistent. Sometimes they were rallied to a mineral field. Sometimes you were having to manually move the drones to the mineral field. And that was a hard one to pin down because it seemed like your main and your natural were fine, but the third never really got rallied.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of a reminder. Just try and make sure you always have your hatcheries rallied. It should be something you generally do the moment you plant the hatchery, so that you don't even have a chance of forgetting, because that's a lot of lost mining time sometimes.
Indeed. Okay. So is that those are the main things?
Yeah,
that,
yeah, and those will apply no matter what race we're playing today, so I figure that's good to get out of the way.
Okay. Well, I'll mention a little bit where I've been at. I've been upgraded from gold to platinum.
Woohoo!
So, yeehaw. I'm actually high platinum right now. They put me, like, from gold, then they're like, oh, now you're rank 4 platinum. So, apparently I climbed that ladder pretty quickly. So, that's okay. I'm still doing okay. My win rate has decreased, I think, from in gold. Like, I was winning, like, 9 out of 10 matches at one point, and now it's more like 6 out of 10, maybe 7 out of 10. I'm having a lot of trouble with early pressure in these higher leagues. I'm also having way more trouble with Protoss than I was in earlier leagues. I'm doing really well against Terran. Like, I've got a really solid win rate against Terran. I'm doing well in ZVZ as well, because I've got a build that I use that it applies early Zergling pressure, and that seems to be pretty successful, at least at this stage in the game. And the main thing though is I'm having a lot of trouble with toss and early like timing, like 7 or 8 minute timing attacks. Like I got uh, rolled by some toss, and I had and by like 8 minutes he had this huge army of like stalkers and dark Templar, and I'd never seen that composition in my life. I'm like, oh crap, I'm done. There's nothing I can do. I also got completely destroyed by a Terran who built nothing but widow mines.
Oh, yeah.
That was really frustrating.
Completely viable, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Maybe a few
So
medevacs, but that's about it, yeah.
so yeah, that's where I'm at now. I very rarely lose a macro game, it seems.
Excellent. That's where we wanted you to be. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
It's really easy for us to now say, okay, this is how you spot a 7-gate. This is how you spot an Immortal All-In. That kind of stuff is just kind of some triggers that are going to start to kick in when you scout.
Hmm.
But to get that foundation where you, just to give you some idea, I don't know if you've taken a chance to look at this, but your ZVT is 59%, which is phenomenal.
Where do I find those statistics? I've been trying to find them.
Yeah, if you go to ladders, and then
Yep.
right above Grandmaster, you're going to see statistics.
Ladders. Oh yes, I see that right there.
And then you've got a map and a race report. You're probably going to get the most use out of the race report, but you might want to take note of your map report stating that Core Hall City is 29%.
Yeah, I've vetoed that map.
Okay. So we have your first veto. That is good.
In fact, I vetoed all the maps that were 4v4 maps because I like it when you know when your enemy's going to spawn.
Okay. That definitely, yeah, I mean, if that's your style, especially because I've noticed you don't typically drone scout, that's going to treat you a lot better.
I do try and drone scout at 14.
Okay.
Is generally when I drone scout now.
Okay, yeah. That was something we weren't doing previously, but I wasn't too worried about it because some people will go straight up to Grandmaster without it, so.
Hmm.
Okay, so yeah, you've got 59% versus Terran, 57 versus Zerg, 52 versus Protoss, which, I mean, we have no races in the negative right now, so with a 56% average, I mean, you can carry that average all the way up to Masters. And you asked, actually, yesterday or the day before.
Yes, how do you get promoted? Because I
Yeah.
was like rank #1 gold, and I was just destroying gold players. I'm like, I think it's time for me to move on and
Yeah.
have a higher challenge level.
Well, Blizzard in their infinite transparency has not told us much of anything, but we've had to kind of figure it out on our own. So here's a couple things, I guess, about it. You have your hidden matchmake rating, your MMR,
Mhm.
and it's this little behind-the-scenes rating that determines who plays who, and that's actually the only number that matters. Well, okay, there's technically two numbers, but anyways, your matchmaking rating is what determines who plays who, and that's what determines promotions. Now, you also have another rating that takes into account how you're currently doing in a streak and whether you do well versus someone you're favored against or who's favored against you. Now, once upon a time in Wings of Liberty, when you entered a game, you may remember it'll say your
It had a
opponent is
favor.
slightly favored. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what determines how many points you get, which is a representation of your MMR compared to your opponent. So you've got that one number that helps with the short-term matchmaking, and it heavily can swing one direction or the other depending on streaks and how you do against certain opponents. So, for example, if you beat a whole bunch of platinum level players, that one's going to go through the roof. It's your Sigma. It's going to just fly through the roof, and all of a sudden you're going to start matching nothing but platinum players. But your MMR is not technically there yet. It's just, it's almost kind of grooming you for platinum. So your MMR then very slowly climbs as you continue to play these platinum players, and as long as you don't take a harsh loss, you don't randomly lose to a silver player, which probably wouldn't match you with unless someone was, trolling on an account. But as long as you keep that streak going, that's when you go ahead and you're ready to move on. So the reason you hit that rank 1 gold is because it's waiting for your MMR to be over 50% of your typical platinum opponent, and then it's also waiting for an availability, which in the case of platinum probably is always going to be there. In the case of Grandmaster, sometimes Master, it's a little harder to break in. But it's going to look like you're already ready, even if behind the scenes you're not. And that's because you're on a streak. So technically, your MMR is still gold level, but once this other number's factored in, you're hitting mid to high masters because you're on a streak. So I know it's kind of a convoluted system that they've developed, but
that made like zero sense.
I mean, that's Blizzard being what they are. They love to not be transparent, and they love to make things way too complicated. So, and then they made Grandmaster, which is the simplest system ever and doesn't work for anyone. So, they have their extremes.
Yeah, they're like I think it's like 0.5% of players are in Grandmaster. I think,
Well, it's
like
just
I was like looking at the percentage and how each league breaks down. I thought, it was interesting to see how they all break down.
Well, and it's even more silly because it's not even based on percentage. It's actually just top 200 players. So we could have 201 players in the StarCraft 2 North American ladder, and 200 of them would be Grandmasters. Or we could have 5 million players, and 200 of them would be Grandmaster.
You see, well,
it's not remotely representative of the population, so it's kind of silly. So, anyways, I hope that made some sense, but I kind of doubt it did.
Yeah, I kind of get. Basically, you just keep playing and winning, and eventually it'll upgrade you if there's a spot to which you can be upgraded to.
Yeah. As long as you just kind of understand there's this hidden other system that recognizes win streaks and losing streaks, that's kind of where it's going to help you to kind of, first off, not get down, because a lot of people, they'll promote to platinum in this case, and then they may lose a few games, and then they'll randomly hit a gold, and they'll go, oh my god, I'm about to demote. But that's not really the case. It's trying to figure out where you're at in accordance to your current losing streak.
I see.
So, it's wonky.
Yeah, it's weird how it works out, but I think it's actually a pretty good matchmaking system overall. It's generally pretty consistent and places you with people that are, at your level for the most part.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Well, and you actually got one of the tougher promotions now because they enlarged the Gold League.
Yeah.
So I believe it's now 20. It's 32%.
No, it's 32%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Bronze is really small. Gold is huge. So I would say Gold and Diamond to Master. Those are going to be your two tough promotions. I don't suspect Platinum to Diamond will be that tough. There's very little difference. All right.
Good to know.
So sounds like ZVP.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is my weak area right now.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get this started. I want to, I don't feel like the replays I watched a while back are going to be representative of your play. So,
don't want me to send you some new ones, or?
Well, I think we should just jump right in. I think you're kind of graduated past the point of us critiquing replays that you're playing against ladder opponents, because, at least from what I've seen thus far, I think your fundamentals are going to be fine. So now it's just more about seeing those little misreads in their build.
Okay. I need a good...
Whoa, that is unranked 2v2.
Yeah, I was doing that yesterday. It's a lot of fun. I think 2v2 is a lot to fun.
Yeah, 2s can be fun. I don't get into 3s or 4s, though.
Yeah, the 3, that it just gets like, who can make the biggest army the fastest type of deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but,
it's a mess.
If you got a good friend to play 2v2 with, it's a ton of fun, I think.
Yeah, actually, there was a couple comments on the YouTube saying we should play 2v2 once you get up to Masters. I'd totally be down for it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Let's see. God, I keep wanting to do like Shakuris, Tal'Darim Altar, the ones that have been removed from the map pool. They were such great maps. Oh, well, we'll start with Old Faithful. You're still playing Daybreak, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Anything like it's a 1 versus 1 map where there's one guy spawning across from you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any of those vetoed.
Okay.
The 3 I have vetoed are all the like 4v4 maps or whatever.
Okay.
Or the 2v2 or whatever they're called. Anyway.
Sounds good. All right, so this first game, I'm not sure what I'll do yet. It'll depend on what I see. But right now we're just going to try and kind of get a feel for where you're at in this matchup since we haven't played any yet.
Yeah, I need a good, solid ZVP build. Because I got a good one that's working for me in TVZ and ZVZ. Or, well, I should be saying Z because I'm Canadian. ZVZ. Anyway. But I've got good builds that are working for me. I don't necessarily have one for ZVP. Yeah, this sounds weird. I'm going to say ZVP.
Yeah, Canadians are really nerdy if they say that. I mean, that makes me think of Power Rangers. Lord Zed, the bad guy from the first Power Rangers.
No, I Generally I use it for the overwhelming majority of things.
Hmm.
I like to troll people and call the band ZZ Top ZZ Top. Just
That just makes my brain hurt.
uh,
All right. So the fun thing about this is now that you're platinum, I get an excuse to amp it up a bit. So that'll be good. I won't feel so dirty.
yeah, I've been like paranoid about drops, so I like build up like drop defenses very regularly, but very rarely have I actually been dropped by
That's
many
good.
Tyrion players.
Yeah, you're developing a habit. So when you finally start seeing it, probably early to mid diamond, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, there it is. Okay, I know what this
Yeah.
is. Yeah, that's fine. As a Zerg player, I think a healthy paranoia of drops is mandatory. There's a point that it's not paranoia. It's just expectation of the inevitable. It's like, yeah, this is gonna happen.
There's one thing that's incredibly satisfying to me, and that's when you kill a no. Damn it.
There you go. Give you a freebie for this one.
Oh well, I already spent my money on spawning pool.
Hatch first, huh? Okay.
I generally always go hatch first.
All right. So are you getting cannon rushed yet?
I got cannon rushed a couple times, very rarely with success though. I don't see why Protoss do it. I don't find it to be a very successful strategy at all.
Okay. Well, we will. What I'll probably do is I want to kind of, again, just kind of have your build be your own, but I also want to show you the weaknesses in your build. So don't be surprised if I mix in a cannon rush. Don't, take it personally. It's more just kind of learning from experience kind of thing.
Yeah. Great. Now I'm like, is he gonna cannon rush me?
Where's the cannons? Where are they? Yeah, I told you that exclusively to make you paranoid so I can macro. So it's all psychological from here.
I like to sing to my opponents if I'm doing really well, because I listen to music while I play, and I'll just like quote random lyrics from the songs I'm listening to if I'm doing like really well.
Yeah. Huck'll do
usually
that.
Yeah.
Troll people a bit.
But I usually listen to like really depressing like emo music. I don't know why. Because I don't know.
It's okay, emo music's good. As long as it's 90s emo music. The current stuff, I don't know. It's just, yeah. Not a fan. Radiohead, though, best emo music ever.
Yeah.
Okay, that gas steel generally isn't going to do too much.
No, I wasn't trying to steal it. I was just trying to protect my drone. or
Oh,
whatever.
okay, gotcha.
I was just doing it to like make sure the drone will be okay.
Keep him from getting cooked while you were looking away.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
pretty much.
You know those flashlights.
Those
Sentries,
flashlights?
yeah, sentries and probes. They both got their little flashlight guns. They do so much
No, that
damage.
always reminds me of. Are you a Warhammer 40k fan at all?
A little bit. Like, I'm actually gonna be getting into it. I've never had a chance to. I played a lot of fantasy actually, but
Yeah.
I've never had a chance to get into a collection. But I'll probably do. God, I can't remember the name of them. The long range ones that are really high tech. They got really good snipers.
Oh, the Tau?
Tau, yeah. I'm wanting to make a Tau army.
Yeah.
They look fun.
No, it's just in like the Warhammer canon or whatever. The main humans, the Imperial Guard, they call their rifles flashlights because they're generally like so ineffective. Is that it's like
Sounds completely appropriate.
literally, you're just putting a flashlight in the end of a gun.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, a couple of my buddies, they play Tyranid a lot, so
Yeah.
apparently Tau versus Tyranid's fun.
If I were to play a Warhammer army, I like the lore and I like the games, like Dawn of War and that type of stuff. I don't actually do the miniatures, but if I did, I'd probably do a Tyranid army because I like creepy crawly bug things.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
why
They're
I'm
very
the Zerg,
Zerg-like.
obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely Seem a lot like Zerg. Although, which ripped off which? I never knew which came first.
It depends on who you talk to, really, but I think actually Warhammer came first. It was like early '80s.
Oh wow, no kidding.
Yeah.
Alright, so what's going on in my base? Good timing on that carapace.
I see 4 gate.
Oh, a lot more than 4, but
Okay, well, a lot of gate.
a lot of gate. I like that. That's a good term. Okay, well.
A Twilight Cancel. I'm also really unfamiliar with like Protoss tech trees because I used to play Terran when Wings of Liberty first came out, so I'm kind of familiar with them, but I never ever played Protoss.
Gosh.
So I don't even know what a Twilight Cancel does.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to talk about that because that's good to know by Platinum.
Yeah.
Alright, well, we'll talk about that afterwards because that's important information. Make sure you pull back. You got that Overlord speed. Don't want to waste it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it was officially wasted.
Yep.
Man. Okay. Is that what Twilight Council does? Is blink stalkers?
Yeah, it does a few things.
Okay. Well, I pretty much caved to this. I've got nothing.
Alright. Oh, I forgot you can't warp up high ground anymore. That was a good patch on their part.
You can't?
Nope, they fixed that with the Heart of the Swarm.
Okay. Yeah, I've got nothing.
Okay. And this is something that you're going to find some players who just do nothing but this in some way, shape, or form. Especially once you get to Diamond, there's guys who just let their Blink Micro carry them through the entire game. All matchups. Because it's pretty good. Blink is fun. Okay, so first off, let's talk that tech tree, because that's really good to know.
Okay.
Because really, you don't know how to hold this unless you know what you're holding. Okay, so you've got your... I'm not sure how early I want to go with this, but I guess I'll start from scratch, especially because we're going to be putting this on YouTube. So you've got your Nexus, that makes the probes, and can chrono boost.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And once you've got a cyber core, that Nexus can also produce a mothership core. Mothership core, that's going to be used a lot for certain types of early rushes. A couple stalkers, yeah, Zealot and a mothership core. Sometimes it escorts a 4-gate. Then you got your pylon, that's your like a supply depot, and a overlord that provides power for your buildings. And you got your gateway, that's going to be able to produce zealots, stalkers, sentries, Dark Templar, High Templar. Initially just zealots. Once they've got a cyber core, they're going to then be able to produce sentries and stalkers. Then you've got your forge, that gives you all of the upgrades for ground army, and also shields which affect both air and ground. And that allows them to produce cannons. Then your cyber core unlocks a few different things. You've got the Twilight Council, which we just looked at, and that allows you to research Blink and Zealot Charge. Also, that's going to open up the +2 and +3 on the Forge.
Okay.
Then you've got, from that Twilight Council, the Templar Archives. So that opens up your your High Templar. Also, you've got the Dark Shrine, which opens up your Dark Templar, which also comes off of that Twilight Council. So one thing you can already start to think in the back of your mind is if your opponent opens Twilight Council, and they're rocking some Blink Stalkers for a while, but they're not quite killing you, don't be surprised if you see them move into Dark Templar and start sending in waves of Dark Templar to snipe your hatcheries, because they're already on that tech path.
Mm-hmm.
Then, completely on a separate tree here, we've got our Robo. And that's going to open up initially your Immortal and your Observer. And then your Prism.
Colossus and War Prism and
yeah,
those kind of fun units.
Yep. You've got to get your Robotics Support Bay before they can get a Colossus. And also Colossus are 6 range until they research the +3 range upgrade. Also, once they get the robotics support bay, they can upgrade their observers to be faster and their prisms to be faster, but those are less used. Then lastly, you've got your Stargate. That's going to open up initially your Void Ray, your Phoenix, and Oracle. And then,
So they don't need any of their tech to get the Oracle. It's just a Stargate, straight Stargate.
yeah, if you see double Stargate, especially when the Oracle buff comes, which we all know is coming, David Kim even keeps dropping hints about it. But yeah, once you see double Stargate, and especially if you no longer see anything producing out of it, it means they may have already cranked out a bunch of Oracles, maybe a bunch of Phoenix. They could already be on the way to the mineral line. So that's the point. You really want to watch your minimap.
Okay.
Nice thing about the Stargate, you can always see what it's producing. So if it's producing, you can zoom in on it and actually see a little bluish outline.
Yeah, you can see like the outline of the ship inside of it.
You got it.
Yeah.
And then your fleet beacon, that unlocks the Tempest and the Carrier.
I saw the Tempest for the first time in one match. It was really ineffective, I thought.
Yeah, it's very puny in small numbers.
So you got to mass it before it really gets useful.
Yeah, actually, one of the few compositions that gives me some trouble versus Protoss on a consistent basis is Tempest High Templar. Maybe a few charge loss to dump minerals, but I find my Swarm hosts always clean those up pretty quick. But the Tempest, the biggest problem I have with it is it's not like the Carrier where I can keep my Hydras outside of the interceptor range and clean up the interceptors while my Locusts soak up the fire. And I also can't rely on Spores because the Tempest can snipe them so easily. So it's a whole different unit though. It's very critical mass based. I would say anything less than like 5 Tempests is laughable. Anything less than 10 won't really be much of a threat. But once they get up to 20 Tempests, they just one-shot everything. Even hatcheries, they're just like, oh look, it's a hatchery. Oh no, there's no hatchery anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah. And meanwhile, they're like...
No, it's just a mess of blood and guts with like useless broodlings that spawn from it.
Yeah. And they're actually surprisingly fast for a siege unit. That's the other thing. It's not only do they fly, but they're pretty fast. So it's like an awkward unit for sure, because it tickles things to death, but it happens to do it really well in large numbers. Okay, so based on that, I guess first we should talk through some of the common builds you're going to see, because if you're not sure of the tech tree, then it's not surprising that this matchup gives you a little trouble with the early timings. So let's say we're just going to talk through a few hypothetical situations, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
What do you imagine your opponent's doing if your Overlord flies through? And well, we'll start with the basics. What do you imagine is occurring if your Overlord flies through? They haven't taken their natural, and they spend 2 consecutive chrono boosts on their cybernetics core while your Overlord's flying through.
Well, if they're spinning Chronoverse and Cybernetics core, aren't they trying to research Warp Gate as fast as possible?
Mm-hmm.
And then you could assume either A, they're going to try and rush you with some kind of Warp Gate pressure, and it depends on whether it's a 4-gate or a lot of gate push. So
it'll be a 4-gate. It'll
yeah.
Once in a while it'll be a 3-gate blink. Once in a really rare while it'll be some kind of like proxy hidden dark Templar kind of thing. They'll put a dark shrine up in some corner of the map. They'll have 3 gateways and they'll chrono boost out warp tech so that they can get those dark Templar in your base ASAP. But especially if they're only on 1 gas, I can almost always guarantee it's warp 4-gate. But the 2 base timings are the ones that are really hard to spot, especially if you're not sure what you're looking at. So, for example, when you flew through there, you just kind of want to think, what is the maximum they could produce off of what they're currently mining? So you saw 6 gateways, and you saw a Twilight Council, and you saw +1 upgrading on my forge, and you saw me chrono boosting the Twilight Council. What that tells you, especially once you look at the fact that I only have 3 gas, is that not only am I going Blinkstalker, but I'm going Blinkstalker all in. Because if I was going Blinkstalker with a transition into maybe Zealot Archon or Dark Templar, I would have a 4th gas.
Okay.
Also, 5 gates is going to be a lot healthier expansion build versus 6 gates. So sometimes you can even just look at the number of gateways they have. Like if they're on 2 gas when that fast Overlord Scout goes through, 2 gas, and you see 7 gateways going down, there's nothing they can do but all in. I mean, they physically cannot do anything else off of that. If they tried to expand, it would be one of the slowest expansions ever. So that's kind of the key to recognizing these all-ins is counting the gateways, to a lesser degree counting the probes, and recognizing how many gas they've taken, and lastly where that chrono boost is being spent, because the difference between 5 gateways and 7 gateways makes it just is completely a different game for them.
I see.
All right, so let's go ahead and get into game number 2 here.
Yeah, I've been surfing the forums because I like the surf of the forums because sometimes they give me new strategies, and also people like to watch people whine. um, but a lot of people are whining about Protoss being overpowered, especially Terran. I mean,
Yeah.
usually the Terrans think they got it all. What the hell? Oh,
I canceled
Yeah.
because I accidentally double-clicked, which would auto-start us.
oh, okay. Yeah, usually the Terrans, think they got it all going on. They've got one thread, and it's Terran overpowered shelter or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of them have been complaining that Protoss is overpowered in TVP.
Oh, yeah, it's possible. I don't play too terribly much TVP, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's a completely unknown matchup to me, but
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, once in a while, if I'm coaching a friend and they play Protoss or Terran, then I'll have to play that off race matchup. But it's actually a really fun matchup. At least in Wings, it was. That presents a really big balance issue if they are having trouble with TVZ and then Protoss is doing well versus Terran, because that means if they nerf Terran in a way, then they make them more vulnerable to Protoss, which if Protoss are already strong against Terran, then they've got a problem on their hands. And that's why the solution is always buff Zerg.
exactly.
That fixes everything.
I won't be happy until Zerg auto wins 100% of all matches.
Wait, you mean we're 49.5%? Too low! Not
Well,
enough.
I don't know, man. 49.2%. He can still become president, or yeah. I mean, did George Bush become president with that vote count, or something along those lines? He got less of the popular vote. I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, senior?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, junior,
Junior?
against Al Gore in the 2000 election. He got less of the popular vote,
Yeah, well,
and he still won.
electoral system's pretty awesome, so.
Yeah,
It all started because apparently we're too stupid to vote for ourselves. It's good. It's one of those things hopefully they'll do away with, because it really serves no purpose these days.
yeah.
I don't know that it ever did, but whatever.
But anyway, my point is if you've got a matchup, still it's 52, 53, 54%. That's these days considered a landslide in a gubernatorial or presidential race.
That is true. So apparently Terran are just landsliding everything.
So yeah, the one thing that I do pretty consistently versus Protoss is I take the Overlord speed first
Mm-hmm.
rather than Zergling speed, because I find that Overlord speed versus Protoss is extremely effective.
It's pretty good. I would probably switch that up because, for example, that last game we played, if you had Zergling speed when you had those 20 or 30 Zerglings, I didn't have Blink quite yet.
Yeah.
And I was already applying pressure. You could have maybe caught me and punished me for moving up before my Blink was finished. And, those opportunities never present themselves if you don't have Zergling speed.
Yes.
The other thing is, I noticed you didn't have Zerglings on the Zelnagas. That's a must-have in both ZVP and ZVT.
Okay.
Because that allowed me to get that close-up pylon.
Oh.
Yeah, for that drone, you generally want to probably just turn around. I find sometimes that's better than hanging out, because you're not going to really kill a pylon with it,
I know, but you still get that annoying "our base is under attack" message over and over again.
That is true. That is one advantage. I'm so bad at pylons and probes. Where are my overlords?
Yeah. I do notice that even still talking does get me behind. I forgot. A little bit off on my gas timing. I guess it's still not to the point where it's like happens subconsciously,
Hmm.
where it's like, you know, like, at the point where you can like drive a car or whatever without really having to devote any kind of conscious like resources to it. I
Hmm.
still have to. It still have to like think about. Okay, now's the time for gas, and it's not automatic quite yet.
Yeah. That second drone scout, I would pretty much never do that.
Never a second stroke scout.
Never.
Okay.
Yeah, it's even one drone scout ZVP can set you back quite a bit on economy, but a
Okay.
second, I mean that's a pretty big impact over the course of the game, especially if
Okay.
you lose both.
Oh, I've seen this before. Oh, whoops.
Ah, I look
What?
away for 1 second, I lose everything. Sucks being at Platinum League.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it.
So are you finding yet that people are able to keep up with the multitasking, or are they doing a lot of kind of a move and look away, or what's it like?
In Platinum League,
Hmm.
it's definitely a little bit that still happens. It's still kind of like a move, see if I can win,
Hmm.
type of deal. But it's way less than it was in Gold League.
Well, that is good. Yeah, that'll gradually taper off. By Diamond, you should see people generally managing their units pretty well. Not always, but
Well, I mean, everybody makes mistakes.
that's right.
There's my words of wisdom. See something? Oh, there's like some crazy crap going on over here.
So that actually is a really good find. That makes a huge difference. Now, what can you infer from that?
That you were probably amping up for some sort of early pressure or something along those lines.
Hmm.
That you were trying to find a area where you could start warping in units. And now I see your Alauda Gate over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anytime you see a close pylon like that, it's giving you a good clue as to what's coming up. It's not necessarily guaranteed, but especially once you confirm a lot of gateways, you're going to be good to go to just put up some spines. Whoa, that was me.
Yeah, well, I think I'm done again.
Yep. I like the response. It's a lot quicker. The one thing that's really tricky about this hold when you're going mutas is it's really easy to underestimate the number of spines you need.
Okay.
I would say if you're going into mutas, double that many spines actually isn't a bad idea. You may even want to say, you know what, I'm just going to make less spines in favor, or less lings in favor of more spines, because I mean, you saw how quickly those zerglings melted.
Yeah, you're right.
The one critical thing there is if you see them chrono boosting their forge, that's indicative of +1 timing, and +1 attack on a zealot is a 33%, or I'm sorry, a 50% increase in damage against zerglings, because they go from 3-shotting a zergling to 2-shotting a zergling.
I see.
So that's actually a huge difference. It's a kind of a fundamental timing for Protoss, and vice versa. There's a lot of counter timings to that. A lot of players will actually time their +1 carapace to equalize that, so that their zerglings stay relevant. But obviously, in this case where you're going mutas, that's not a gas investment you're going to want to make.
Yeah.
So, in that regard, I would say the roaches you could probably skip entirely. When you're going 2-base muta, you probably just want to go right to 2-base muta. So you want to keep yourself alive with speedlings, spines, more spines, quite a bit more spines. And then just get that massive mutas high enough that you can go and snipe those sentries, and then they're going to be forced to retreat or just lose their army more often than not.
Because usually when I see a 4-gate, and then I know they're probably not going to go Stargate, at least they're far away from a Stargate, and I generally find mutas to be pretty effective against a ground Protoss army. For the most part, if you can get in there and get enough of them that you can one-shot stalkers, you can micromanage your mutas to focus fire them down pretty easily.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're phenomenal.
Yeah.
The trick is just surviving to that point. That's the really tough part. Can we watch this replay real quick then? Because I think this one's going to give us a lot more to work with than the last one. I think we were kind of finding our ground that game.
Okay.
Now, the first thing I'm kind of wondering about is that hatch first. If they're not yet pylon blocking or cannon rushing you, I should say cannon rushing you in any way that's threatening.
Yeah, I've been cannon rush, but usually I figure it out pretty quickly. Like, some guy was really obvious about it. It's like this probe is just kind of sitting around at my natural, and I go and sit my hatchery down. I'm like, where'd the probe go? Oh, it's behind my mineral field putting a pylon. Oh. It's just... There he is.
Okay. So right now it's kind of at the stage where if you recognize the probe is acting awkward, you're probably good to go. Okay. All right. So that's fine. So this is a 15?
No, it's 14. 14 hatch, 15 pool. I think I was a little bit off, and usually 16 gas. But I think it was more like 17 or maybe even later.
Okay. The one build, I hate to standardize you, the one build you may want to consider, and I tell you what, actually, this next game, this will be a fun experiment. Okay. This next game, and I'll actually pause here, what we're going to do is I want you to do the exact build you're doing right now. It's what you're comfortable with, you're good to go on it, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flat out tell you, I will cannon rush you next game.
Okay.
So the only thing you have to do is execute that hatch first into pool, and then after that you can go ahead and do whatever you want to deal with my cannon rush, because I want this to be a case where we test the viability of this build versus the high level cannon rush. And there is such a thing. People can cannon rush their way well into high masters. I've seen some people break into grandmasters. Granted, that was back when the MMR wasn't working right for it, but still. Some people do actually have grandmasters in their record because of cannon rushing. Which is awesome.
It's depressing.
So I want to give it a test, and honestly, I don't know how to work. You may hold, you may not, but I just want to make sure this is something that'll be viable for you, because I think one of the worst ways in the game to lose is build order loss, because, I mean, at the moment you see the load screen, you've technically lost, because the other guy came in with the intention of doing something that just happens to automatically win.
Yeah, well, in comparison to your build.
Yeah,
that is.
exactly. Yep. And that's the thing. Like that's why I don't like blind hatch first versus Zerg, because if your opponent opts to 10 pool and they're good at their 10 pool, they win. I mean, there's just it just doesn't go any differently. I mean, maybe if you went like a 14 hatch 14 pool, but that's not really a good build versus a lot of other ZVZ. Thus far, I think you did okay. The one thing I would like to see is one spine here.
Where? Can you like
Yeah, I'll
ping
pause.
it or like where there
Yeah,
or
there we go. Forgot we can do that. Yeah, let's see. What is that?
like right beside the
Alt
ramp
G.
there?
Why isn't it just alt click? That is weird. Okay. Yeah.
Alt G, yeah.
Yeah, that is very odd. It should just be alt click. But yeah, you just want it. This map is one of the tougher ones to hold, but right at the edge of this creep, right kind of north of that Zergling that's barely touching the creep,
Yeah.
that technically gives coverage to both your ramp to your main and your natural. It's not really optimal until you get a creep tumor down, but it's going to do well enough. Because that spine's going to prevent you from needing to make probably 5 drones worth of Zerglings.
Okay.
So even from a resource standpoint, that's a good trade. But from a larva standpoint, it's a phenomenal trade. And your cue to do that is probably just going to be any time you see Gateway first. Believe it or not. It's just that transparent. Because if you think about why they're going Gateway first over Forge FE, well, they're sacrificing a ton of economy. So they need to make that economy back in economic damage. And in this case, it felt like you held it, but if we look at the drone count, actually because of all the Zerglings I forced, it still did economic damage.
I see.
So the damage was done, believe it or not, in a very indirect way, but it did set you back significantly. Okay.
It's a depressing thought. It's like you killed them and you win the battle,
Yeah.
but you still lost overall.
It used to be, believe it or not, Protoss would win a lot of games by just leaving their natural, getting to the Xel'Nagas, killing the Zerglings on the Xel'Nagas, and then turning around. And it was a really high-level way to play, and it won thousands of games for players. Because...
Because what, it would deny them scouting, or...
Nope. You know that reactionary concept we've been working on where you make units when you see the opponent move out?
Yes.
Well, if the Protoss player moves out with just enough army that it looks like it could be a gateway timing, but doesn't send a probe along with it, you have no way of really knowing if that's the case. So you make a bunch of units, and he turns around and takes his third.
Yeah, that's like Sun Tzu Art of Warfare.
Oh, yeah.
Type of metagame.
That's exactly.
Stuff going on.
Yep. If your opponent is quick to anger.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing that you're going to see more and more, especially at Masters. It's very high-level play. But these days, I feel like they've given Zerg a lot better options because of the Queen range. That was back when Queen only had 3 range, so as a defensive unit, they were pretty bad.
What is it now? Is it 6? No, 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pretty good. Okay, so...
It's not bad. And this is where I die.
Yeah. The other thing is, once you see them breaking these rocks, you can go ahead and shuffle all of your spines over.
I see. Yeah, I was like thinking, well, maybe I can make them... I was... Because this happened to me in one game where I saw them breaking the rocks, so I would move one spine over, then they'd run away, and then they'd come around and try and attack.
Yeah, and there's going to be a dance, but especially when you only have a total of 3 spines with 1 more under construction, what you can do is you pull them all up, put them all over at that ramp, and then if you see them back away and they don't come back right away, go ahead and chase them down with a Zergling. Just sacrifice 25 minerals to confirm they're looping around, and you're going to have time to uproot your spines and put them back over to the other ramp.
I see.
It's kind of one of those clutch moments, but if you're real quick about it, you will get those spines back down in time. The Queen. You're getting to the point here where I'd like to see no battle lost with a Queen at 176 energy. Transfuse is really, really good, especially on spines.
Noted.
So, right now...
I should take notes.
Well, fortunately, we'll have a recording for this.
Yeah, exactly. I can rewatch it if I need to.
Now, that means, so you've got your queens on 2, so that means just when you've got a battle going, even if you don't necessarily know exactly what energy those queens are at, you can probably bet that by 12 minutes, for the time being, they have enough energy to transfuse. Down the road, when you're reaching high masters, hopefully your injections and creep tumor drops will be tight enough that that won't always be the case. But in this case, don't be afraid to just press 2 and spam out that transfuse. Now the other thing is you've got 2 queens up in your main, you've got another queen at your natural, and this is definitely a case where all 4 of those queens need to be right up front fighting and transfusing. So for defensive purposes, make sure you're utilizing them.
How many queens should I ideally build? Should I have like a lot? Should I have like 2 per hatchery or something, or is there like a good number, good rule of thumb?
For now, I like 2 per hatchery. That's good.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, I guess one thing that kind of drives the point home we were making earlier with that Zealot, Stalker, and Mothership Core is you have not lost any drones yet, but you're at 36 drones to my 42 probes at 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm going all in, so that means you are in really rough shape from all those Zerglings. Okay, now there's one more thing, and that is none of your units, again, are on control groups.
Yeah, I've been trying to switch over my hatcheries to like 4 and 5, but I can't do it. And it would make more sense to have your army as number 1 and number 2, but I don't know, I like it where it is right now. But that for some reason I always forget then to put my armies on hotkeys.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, that's something you're going to have to kind of, I don't know, post-it note on the monitor or something.
Yeah.
You need something that's really going to keep you remembering that, because that's super critical.
Okay.
Okay, then, I mean, 4 drones on gas, but little stuff like that I'm not too terribly worried about. So I think we're ready to look at the next game. But yeah, the big thing is try and get in the habit of having all those units on at least 1 control group, but by the time you've got mutas out, I would split them into 2. Okay.
So this is our cannon rush experiment?
This
right
is our you will definitely be cannon rushed game. And we will see how it goes.
I can't like metagame it. Like, well, yeah, gonna.
Well, you can metagame it so far as to say, the moment that I drop my pool, I can save up for Zerglings. I mean, you can do that. I don't mind that at all, because I want to see if you execute your build and you then read Cannon Rush perfectly, how would it play out?
Okay.
So, what are the other 2-player maps? I am drawing a blank. Oh, Belshir Vistage. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember most of the map names for the life of me. The only one I remember is Core Hall City because I hate that map.
It's pretty bad.
It's like the worst map in the history of maps.
Okay. All set?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, you drop that pool and then you can do whatever you want. You can pull all your drones if you want.
Okay. Well, no, I got to do the hatch first. That's the thing.
Well, that's what I mean. Yep.
That's the whole point.
Yep. You hatch first, then you drop your pool, and then after that you can metagame it all you want.
Okay.
I love the comments whenever I'm coaching on the chat. It's like, why is he playing Protoss? Did he switch?
Oh.
It's like, no. It's all good, guys. It's really fun when I spend like a day off racing just to get some perspective, because sometimes I'll get into this like, oh, Terran's OP, And if I off race for a day, I find that kind of nips it in the bud. Except for the times when I prove myself right and I run like 80% versus Zerg. But anyways, it's really funny because everyone's like, did he switch? Did he switch? It's like, no, sorry.
Go here.
This is actually a fun map to look at this on, because this actually is one of the tougher maps to cannon rush, I'd say. Interesting.
Do a lot of cannon rushing?
yeah, it's a hobby of mine. As far as hatch first maps go, this might be one of the better ones. Still not seeing a hatchery.
That's because it's not. I'm now have the minerals to do it.
Gotcha.
And you just blocked it like a jerk. Well, that's. I thought the whole point was
Keep going. We're just going to play this out. Any of your good Protoss players, whether they're Cannon Rushing or not, are going to do at least a little bit of this. Yeah, this might be a really tough map to Cannon Rush on, actually. Oh, that was not what I meant to box. I had to get really creative with this map. I actually don't think you'll ever be cannon rushed on this map. Not by a good player. This is actually one of the hardest maps I've ever seen to cannon rush. But this should give you an idea of what you're going to be up against. They're going to wall off with pylons to cut your access. And then that's going to provide them the ability to restrict your surface area, because you had basically one drone worth of surface area there.
Yeah, I couldn't get in there and kill him. Which is very sad. At least I was able to get the other one, though.
That's true.
So, small victories. You take them when you can.
That's right.
Yeah, well, we've got quite the cannon fortress down there.
Do you feel contained?
Yes.
Oh, good. That's good. Mission accomplished. Good call.
Yeah, well, so I don't feel as contained. As, I wanted you to believe that I was.
Sneaky.
Yeah. Oh, I had to do something. And I'm sure the people are like really enthralled watching this right now. It's kind of intense. I
It,
feel like I actually really despise. I think cannon rushing is like a really gross tactic.
oh,
I
I
don't know
love it.
why.
It's so. I don't know. I find it fun just because it's so out of the norm, in that
What do you
regard.
mean?
Well, it's a completely different kind of game, especially macro cannon rushers, which there is such a thing.
The macro cannon rushers?
Hmm.
What do you mean?
There's guys who they play at master level and they open with a cannon rush, and then their intent is to set you far enough behind that then they can macro and be in good shape. Believe it or not, they do exist. How'd you get in there?
Oh crap! Well, I thought I might have enough mutas to be able to turn the tide, but I'm done.
All right, sounds good. But yeah, that's the trouble. Is even with getting that hidden off, it just sets you back so far. That the better cannon rushers, they're going to know when it's time to say, okay, you know what? I'm not going to kill him outright. He's not going to just
Yeah.
GG like an Idra, but I can still pull way ahead if I just go ahead and take my Nexus behind this. Because we notice I committed a ton to those cannons, probably more than I needed to, and I still was ahead on economy the entire game.
Hmm.
So that's the one thing that I don't necessarily want this to be something where you say, oh, I'm just going to go 15 pool every game now. But if you reach a point where you start seeing that sort of thing occurring on a regular basis, there's, I guess, two things you can do. You can either turn it into cats, who somehow manages to go 3 or 4 hatch before pool versus cannon rush and make it work, or switch over to pool first. So I mean, there's few and far between. There's guys who can pull it off. TLO once in a while will go that way as well, but by and large, people end up eventually having to go to pool first in some way, shape, or form.
I see.
So, and I think that's part of what's kind of dangerous about streams is sometimes you'll watch someone playing something that's just completely out there, and then it's like, oh, cool, I'll do that, and then turns out 3 hatch before pool is actually really, really bad unless you know exactly what the timings are.
I watched a really interesting replay from a guy to counter Forge Fast Expand.
Hmm.
He built like a Nidus worm and like had it erupt right outside the Protoss base, put a bunch of swarm hosts in it and some queens and like a bunch of drones. Then he built a bunch of like spore colonies around his Nidus worm and then just had the swarm hosts do their work and slowly grind him down. I was like, that's awesome.
That is
It's like
pretty cool.
that's like the coolest thing I've ever seen.
It's like this is piling layers of gimmicky on top of gimmicky.
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
Nick was using the queens to spawn creep tumors, and it was great. It was awesome. Like when I get good, when I grow up, I'm gonna try that.
I'm gonna do ridiculous looking things and make them work.
Exactly. I want to get to that point
Oh
where
yeah.
I feel comfortable enough to do like really weird things and try and make them work.
The one that the one that I loved, and this was something I believe it was Fruit Dealer, may have been Nestea. Either way, this replay got really popular, and it was he takes a drone, goes all the way over to the opponent's base. Meanwhile, he's crawling like 8 queens across the map. And once the queens get there, he takes the drone, drops a hatchery right in front of the opponent's base, cancels it. On the creep that was made by the canceled hatchery, he drops a bunch of creep tumors. Then, shortly after, follows like 12 spines, and he spine pushes the guy's natural.
Wow. And it worked?
It worked.
Nice.
He won. Yeah. It was a queen spine push at like 7 minutes. It ended up actually winning GSL games later on, once people perfected it.
That sounds incredibly useful, although I've never seen anybody do it before.
Oh yeah, it phased out by the end of like 2010. It was one of those things where people did it as a fad for like a month because of the building positioning. They would always put their cyber core at the front like they do now, but people just didn't know the timings as well, so you could actually snipe the cyber core with some spines and cancel their warp tech, which ended the game because you had enough queens to deal with Void Race if they were going Stargate.
Nice.
Yeah. It was a fun time to be playing StarCraft. Okay. So I promise that's the only Cannon Rush I'll do. Just kind of keep that in the back of your head as to whether you want to stay with Hatch first or switch over to Pool first.
So I know you don't like, giving me build orders to do, but what is your build order versus Protoss?
Well, my build order's a little wonky. It's 11 over Pool.
For those who don't know what an 11 over pull is, I know what it is, but there's probably people who are watching that don't know what it is.
Yeah, I guess I'll detail the build a little bit here. I drone up to 10. Then I go ahead and do what's called an extractor trick, and that is when you drop an extractor and make another drone, then cancel it to force yourself over the supply cap. You're going to see 11 out of 10 in red numbers knowing you did it right. Then the part that means over pool in that is you make an overlord and then a pool. So that means I'm at 11 out of 10, immediately save up to 100 minerals, make an overlord. And then, while that overlord's spawning, I'm just mining. And the moment that overlord spawns, the timing works out nice and crisp. I'm going to have enough for a pool. Then, my overlord spawns, so I'm ready to start droning again. And at, it depends on what I'm going for, but currently my standard is I'm going to drop my hatchery at 18 supply. I don't even know my own timings. And the way that's going to work is actually I'm going to drone up to, well, I guess the simpler way is you drone up to 15. You make a queen, you make a set of zerglings, those zerglings pop. You go ahead and take your hatchery at 18. I like to get really weird with it. I drone up to 16, and I do a second extractor trick by making my queen, then I extractor trick up to 19 out of 18, and I make the zerglings with that extractor trick. I found it's a little bit better economy. I feel my timings are a little tighter. But the reason I do this is a few different things. First off, it's completely immune to most cheese. As long as you know what you're looking at, it's pretty much immune to all cheese. So Cannon Rush, not a problem. Proxy Gateway is not a problem. None of that. Also, the pylon block that's really common at Master and Grandmaster level, where they dance their probe around like I was doing last game, and instead of Cannon Rushing, they just drop a single pylon and delay you, and they may even cancel it to be really annoying. It's immune to that as well because you get your zerglings out in time to kill the pylon. So most people don't even attempt it. So that's what I like, but it's a really complicated build for those first few minutes. So you may find 15 pool to be a better option, which is not as good for 2-base play, but is much better for fast third play. Which may be what I would rather you learn how to do for now, just because that's standard and we want to learn standard before we go crazy.
That's what I see a lot of Zerg players doing is the fast third, especially when they see the Forge fast expand. They immediately take the third at like 4 or 5 minutes is something very common that I'm seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the one thing that makes that kind of tricky is right now you are practicing dealing with certain timings, and
Yeah.
taking a fast third in many respects make those harder to hold. And sometimes roachling actually holds easier on a fast third, but more often than not, it's harder to hold. So that's where I don't know if I necessarily want to push the fast third yet, but you may want to consider moving into 15 pool, 15 hatchery, so that you can then eventually move into fast third play.
Okay.
Okay, you ready?
Well, let's try that then.
Okay.
Yes, I'm ready.
Yeah, I actually was addicted to hatch third for a long time, and started raging really hard because everyone was cannon rushing me, and it got into one of those things where I was like, why do people keep cannon rushing me? I just want to go hatch first CVP. And everyone was like, dude, just stop going hatch first. I'm like, no, I can't. I gotta go hatch first or I won't have enough queens. That was my justification for everything for about all of 2010, most of 2011, was I just need more queens and I need more creep tumors, and whatever makes that happen.
Yeah, that's something I definitely need to work on, is using my queen energy more effectively.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's easy to neglect because you just kind of say, well, I don't need any more larvae. Okay, we're good. And there's a lot more to it, especially when you get into transfusing.
Yeah, that's something I don't use very often. I used it once in one match. I felt like a pro. Yeah, I transfused that spine crawler. What are you gonna do now, buddy?
Yeah, it just effectively doubled its health. No, it does. It feels really cool to get those clutch transfusions off, especially when you can do them reliably, because they'll commit to an engagement and they'll be like, "Oh, this is pretty good. I'm going to clean this up," and then they're like, "It won't die." You can just hear them smashing their keyboard over on the other side of the world.
And also, well, mainly versus Terran, is something I have a problem with, is ending up with like a crap ton of minerals and nothing to spend them on.
Hmm.
It's like I'll like 2,000 to 3,000 like minerals and zero gas, and I'll be spawning lings like a madman, but there's not enough larvae. I can't spend the minerals fast enough.
Yeah. Well, and that's where that hatchery rule wants to come into play. You just want to make sure to keep that in mind. Because that's going to be your safety net for that for a long time.
Yes.
It's good.
Okay. So you would not suggest going Overlord speed before Link speed?
I wouldn't. For now, it's just one of those cases where I want to get you following some standard practices that'll keep you safe. And Overlord speed, as much as it feels like the scouting gives you a lot to work with, it actually is not as good as having map control with that Link speed.
Okay. Oh, there's another thing. Crap. I had something again that I want to ask, but I lost it. Oh, is I also try and get push out layers as fast as I can, especially versus Protoss, because I feel like layer tech is more useful against them, especially if they're going to go some sort of Stargate push. I mean, you need to have layer for, well, overseers in case they go for those goddamn Dark Templar. Or, of course, Void Rays and Oracles and Phoenixes.
Yeah.
So I always try and get layer as soon as I possibly can.
Okay.
Versus Protoss.
And that's fine. Eventually, we want it to be something where instead of saying as soon as I possibly can, you say 5 minutes, 45 seconds, or whatever that may be.
Okay.
For now, though, it's not something where really your build is solidified much, so that's going to be a case where you start to study your own replays and say, oh, well, can I bump up that time? Or maybe I need to relax that time a bit, allow myself more room to drone, and start making those little minor adjustments. Like in my ZVP, I pretty much have a rule that I must start my layer by 6 minutes.
Okay.
But that's because I take a very fast layer for the swarm host timing. Remember to grab those Zelnagas. Even on this map, they'll help you a lot.
Yeah, I was just sending a link there as you were talking, telling me to do that. So it was good timing.
Good timing. Mind reading.
And but I don't know. I feel like ZVT used to be my worst. It's a lot of gate build.
Well, this is just 4 at 7 minutes, so I wouldn't necessarily get too worried yet. I'd hold off until you see just a couple more, possibly.
So, what is the best unit composition to say hold the 4 gate? Is it just like mass roaches, or do you want like a even mix of zerglings and roaches, or?
Well, 4 gate off of 2 base, they're probably just going to apply a little bit of light pressure. They might even mix in something else with it instead of just 4 gate.
Yeah.
So spines going to be very good. Roaches, absolutely if you're into the tech, but don't necessarily commit to them if you're going muta.
Okay.
It's kind of one of those where don't necessarily go them because you feel obligated.
I don't know. I feel that they're generally they're very effective against Protoss. I find
Roaches, yeah.
Yep.
Very good.
A little bit less so effective against Terran.
Yeah, that's changing a little bit because they're pretty good against Widow Mines and Hellbats, but by and large they are a little less effective.
Well, there goes the spine crawler.
Yeah, we might want to say you preemptively get a spine crawler, maybe even 2, by maybe 7 minutes or so. At least by the time you start your layer at the latest.
Oh crap.
Dimensional strings attuned. Tokenization. Non-zip track. Let us begin. An AOD Washagal. Receive guidance. An omen.
Hey, look at that. That is a fast third. I like that.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, I'm glad that you had that much, though. That's good.
Eh,
I was worried you were just on 2 base.
no. I think I have.
Receive guidance. Harmonize. An AOD Washagal.
Well, I think you killed all my drones.
Okay, so actually this was a lot better game than I thought, because you got that quick third. Now the one thing is, you didn't technically take your natural third. Because
That's
of
not
those,
technically my natural?
yeah, because of the rocks, you're going to want to take your vertical third on this map.
Okay.
Much easier to defend. Even if you were to break the rocks, I still find this easier to defend because it kind of pockets away there. So you can actually have spine crawlers that cover Alt-G for some reason. Okay, that cover there in that area, and you've got spines now.
Where's that area? I don't see
Oh,
that area.
we're not
I
on
can't
replay,
because we're
yeah.
not on replay.
Okay, let's go to replay.
Okay.
So there's going to be a lot of good stuff this game for us to talk about.
Yeah.
You're kicking yourself right now, huh?
Why?
I don't know. I can kind of hear it in your tone of voice. You sound a little frustrated.
Yeah. Well,
That
I
is
don't know.
okay. We're amping up the difficulty a little bit, so some of this is just, going to be kind of growing pains as you're moving into platinum. You're going to start hitting diamonds, and you're going to start seeing coordinated builds like this, where they say, I'm going to open with 8 zealots and dump all my gas into oracles, and hopefully my zealots are going to kill lots of queens and prevent him from feeling the need to make spores because he's too busy dealing with the zealots. And that kind of thing is going to become more and more common, where there's a follow-up to whatever they initially intended.
Okay.
But still, I like the fact that you got such a quick third and got it so well saturated. We just needed a couple
Well,
spots
mainly
there.
it was saturated because like I pulled all my drones off the line and sent them there instead.
Gotcha. That would do it. All right. So how'd the 15 pool, 15 hatch feel?
It's okay. The only thing is I got my queen off a little bit late. It's just the one reason why I like my build is because I can get both queens. Like I got a time, so I have enough minerals so I can get a queen started at each hatchery at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can inject at the same time, so I don't have to worry about like alternating hatcheries.
Yeah.
Something like I really like. Like I hate it if my larva injects on my hatcheries are off timed,
Mm-hmm.
because then I feel like I have to check more often to make sure I'm efficiently using those larva injects.
No, yeah, I agree. And having your injections synchronized is such a huge help. You might even find that for now you may want to deliberately sync them up, even when they're
Yeah.
off. So, like in a build like this, you may say, okay, once my second queen is out, I'm actually going to just start injecting at the same time from that point on, and they'll just sync up on their own because eventually one of them will wait for the other, and you
Okay.
won't be so frazzled trying to keep up with both. Okay, so yeah, at this point, where I was mentioning is now in this case your hatchery is blocked by a pylon, but I don't think that would have been the case because your hatchery would have actually gone down first from what I'm seeing on the build times. So that would still work out really well. But yeah, you can actually cover right around there with your army and spines, maybe a little further up around there. And that's going to mutually defend both your third and your natural. Whereas for this pocket third, even if you have the rocks broken, you still have 2 points of entry.
Right here, this one.
Yeah,
Well,
because
theoretically, don't you only have one? Oh, there's no rocks there anymore. There used to be like isn't there another version of this exact same map where there's rocks defending it?
yeah,
And you can like kill it and knock it over, and it helps defend it.
yeah, they removed those. So they, along with those 2 center Zelnagas, they're haters.
Okay.
Yeah, but even if those rocks were there, technically they can still go ahead and break them down, and then they've got 2 points of entry. So really the only thing that makes this vertical third not quite as awesome as it could be is just the ramp right next to it, the ledge right next to it. So siege tanks are strong there. But you won't have that problem in this case. You'll have Colossus, but I find Colossus at ledges are a lot easier to deal with than siege tanks at ledges. Okay, so the drone count is one thing I'm kind of interested in that you went high gas and then fast third, and I think some of this was kind of a little bit of improvising on your part, trying out some new things, which is great. But just keep in mind, you always want to make sure your gas count is matching the intentions of your build. So for you to go double gas and then take a quick third, and then after that third goes down, take your layer, we see that puts you taking your third or taking your layer at 228 gas.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the inefficiency that caused your drones to be so low. So again, just keep in mind, you always want to make sure you're prioritizing efficient spending of your resources, particularly when it comes to gas, because that's going to float for quite a while. And actually, in this game, we saw it never got spent because of this spire going down. And that's where we may want to kind of tie it back to the same thinking that we had in ZVT, which was you either want to go 2 base muta or fast third. And that means if you're going fast third, then you're not going fast muta. That's not to say you can't go muta. It just means what you'll probably want to do is you'll want to get your third up and established, maybe get to 65, 70 drones, you're going to go on Roach Speedling for your defensive units, and that means you can delay your layer a little bit, because they do synergize pretty well, especially against gateway units.
Well, that wouldn't help me very much against your mass Oracle army.
That much is true. Although my thinking is, if you have your fast third, you have a lot of droning, you've held off this 8 zealot pressure, or whatever they have in mind with their gateway units, then you have the stability necessary to spot that Oracle. Because really, part of this is you are so occupied. I mean, you even had an Overlord in position, and you had Overlord speed, but we see it was never scouted, because you are so occupied dealing with these zealots. And if it's scouted, then 2 spores per base later, you're immune to my oracles. And you're still way ahead on economy because you're on 3 base and 60 to 70 drones to my 2 base and 50 to 60 probes.
Okay.
So it's not a case where you can't defend against air without layer. It's definitely a little harder, but especially since you're not really going Hydra too often anyways, I would say you're probably just as well off. Mutas do pretty well against oracles, but I mean, really anything does well against oracles.
Oracles can't. Well, they can't attack air, right? So obviously they do pretty well against them. I would assume
that they do. Yeah. That makes sense. You might even call it a hard counter. It's close. The oracle, the oracle can run away pretty fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I would say the one thing to really take away from that is just make sure you're deliberately either going fast third or fast muta, but never both at the same time.
Okay.
All right, I'd say we got time for one more, if that works for you.
Yeah, sure. I can do one more.
Okay. I would say by comparison, from high diamond to low master is what I'm trying to throw at you right now. So, again, in no means let this get you down, because I don't feel like this is a case where you're progressing slowly in ZVP or anything like that. I feel like this is just more allowing you to see everything that you're going to start seeing, because Protoss start to really branch out. It used to be that at Platinum they were just probably making lots of gateway units and hoping they win, or they were going for something really weird like mass cannons into carriers. And now you're going to start actually seeing coordinated builds. So
not going to see much of the mass cannon carrier build. It's a good one. It's a good one.
It's good. Believe it or not, I do see it. Actually, I had a game a couple days ago where my opponent saw Swarm Host and was already committed to double Stargate, so he put like 10 cannons at his third, and then went straight into carrier, and then cussed me out when he left. It was a really nice rage quit, actually. Called me really cheesy and stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't. I generally will not talk to someone. Like, if I rage quit, I'll just leave. I will not actually engage in them and tell them anything. I will just leave. And if they come back, sometimes people will come back and be like, "Lol, lol, lol, you lost the game," or whatever thing they do. But I refuse to engage in that. I'll just ignore them.
What I do if someone does that is usually I'll ignore them, but once in a while if it's really entertaining, especially if I'm streaming, because it's a good show, I'll message them and I'll say something deliberately nice to them. I'll just be like, "Hey dude, that was a good game." or the one the other day, I was like, "Man, you're really good at this game. You want to practice sometime?" And it's like he played a decent game. For the build he went, he actually held up really well.
Yeah.
It's not every day you see someone go mass cannon into a carrier and actually go 25 minutes. So it's definitely funny how emotionally involved people get.
Well, I mean, that's because, here we go. I've got a whole psychological theory about why people get really emotionally involved with StarCraft, even more so than other games, like multiplayer games. First-person shooters like Battlefield and Company of Heroes, not a Company of Heroes, Call of Duty. And that's because especially if it's 1 versus 1, it's just you and another person, right? It's so there's no allies coming in to save you. It's just you and another person. You get into a room and one dies and one lives, type of deal. So if you mess up, it's all on you. There's no one you can abdicate responsibility to. it's entirely your fault. So that makes people, I feel like, more invested because that you can't blame anybody else. There's no way you can say, oh, it's because this guy came in and did whatever. You
Yeah.
fucked up. You fucked up.
Yeah, League of Legends,
And
you can defer responsibility. Say, "Oh man, my support sucks." It's hard
yeah,
to carry when my
exactly.
support
Yeah.
sucks. Yeah. Well, and I think part of it is, by comparison, Company of Heroes, any of the Red Alert
Oh,
games, anything like that. Uh oh.
sorry, I
That's it.
forgot my gas.
Ah. Well, actually, that would have been a really early gas, anyways. You may want to bump that back a little bit, ZVP.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I think StarCraft actually pushes people quite a bit beyond what some of the other games do. I mean, by the end of a long StarCraft game, it feels like you've played to your fullest. So it's not even like you can say, "Oh, I was just messing around." More
Yeah.
often than not, you were working your ass off, and then someone just rolled you.
Yeah, and then if you lose after you invested like half an hour of your time
Hmm.
into this game and you're like coming out and you're like sweating bullets and you lost, it's pretty tough to take because
And then the other guy's sitting there like, "You mad, bro? What, you mad?"
yeah, exactly.
It's like, come on, I just lost a game.
It's tough to not take this game seriously.
It is.
Although I definitely for some reason I get more angry when I play 2 versus 2 with someone than I do when I 1v1. I don't know why.
I find team play really frustrating, so I can kind of understand that. I think it would be fun if I just was playing with someone who could coordinate with me well. A lot of times it's like, oh well, I'm going to go do this. Okay, well I'll try to do something that works with that, but that's not really a team play build. It's like I just 4-gate and cannon rush every game. Oh, and you're Masters level 2v2? Yeah, standard. Okay, good to know.
Oh man. Okay. I'm falling back into the same thing. I think with the ZVP is I feel like I don't have a plan. I guess I never feel like I've got a real plan.
A bit like the ZVT was a week
Yeah.
ago.
And now, when I ZVT, I've got a build that works for me, which is that 2 base muta into pressure, and then expand, and then not outright kill them, but hopefully put them on the defensive so I can just macro up and then kill them later. And that works really well for me. And I still have yet to find an equivalent in versus Protoss. And I've got a build that works well for me with the
I'm,
Zerg
think-
play.
I'm thinking we may want to find you a practice partner, honestly,
Yeah?
for ZVP. But we'll talk about that here in a moment. One
Okay.
question is, have you made any Zerglings yet this game?
Nope.
Okay. When you finish your pool, and this is a rule you can apply to any matchup, when you finish your pool, you want to always make sure that you make at least one set of Zerglings. That
And
match,
is one set like just 2, or do you mean like one set in terms of like 3 drones, 6 Zerglings?
2, yeah, just 2 Zerglings. I'm sorry, that's
Oh,
probably
just
the
2
more clear.
Zerglings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there's map control there that you absolutely must know. So, for example, these zealots, a little bit more surprising than they would have been.
Yeah. But you recalled them. Okay,
Yep.
that's what you did.
I just waited till they were getting low and recalled. Risk-free investment.
Yeah. It's like Terrans in their scans. That's a risk-free investment.
Actually, scans lose 300 minerals every time they use them.
Though I don't buy that because it's not like the minerals are going anywhere. It's not like the minerals disappear. They're still there.
Well, if they're spending clean, then that's 300 minerals worth of mule mining that they would have had. So yeah, I mean, scans definitely do cost resources. It's just it's kind of potential resources rather than resources in the bank already. But high level Terran, I mean, they're not banking anything anyways. Not for quite a while. Huh?
that probe see that queen building or something, and then you decided to leave?
No, no, I just realized he was there.
Okay.
I was just like, oh, hey, look. I've got a probe hanging out at his third. We should fix that.
Oh crap.
Directed by the hospital. Guidance. Direct us. As all are one. Reinforce that. Rono Hashi.
Ah, well, there's nothing I can do against this.
Yeah, this is one of those ones that really carries a lot of Protoss through their Masters ZVP. Just any sort of immortal gateway timing is really tough for Zerg to deal with. I find Swarm Host to be one of the best ways to deal with it. Also, if you can get the Muta Harass started, then that's really good too. But in this case, since you were going fast third, that's going to be a little bit delayed. But 3-base Muta is actually really, really good. You just saturate all the gas right when your layer finishes, and you're going to be able to crank out Mutas so fast. And that really nullifies their immortals, because you're going to probably be spending your minerals on speedlings, so they won't get that bonus damage. So, yeah, I'm not really too terribly worried about how you respond to that. I think really now it's just going to be a matter of tightening up your build orders. And for now, when you see Immortal Sentry, my hope is you're just going to have enough stuff that it's easy enough to deal with.
Okay.
Later on, we may want to talk about this build specifically when you start seeing it consistently game after game.
It's a popular one.
It's a very popular one. Wings of Liberty, it was super popular. Now it's still pretty heavily used. It's kind of like they flip a quarter, and they, depending on if it's heads, they're going Immortal Sentry. If it's tails, they're going Sky Toss.
Okay.
So, all right. So, how are you feeling about this for ZVP?
Worse.
Honestly. Worse, yeah.
Worse than I came in.
No, I can hear it. That's understandable. Well, we'll keep an eye on it. Keep in mind your ZVT. I felt like it didn't really start to hit a turning point until our second lesson. So let's keep an eye on it. Play some more games, and I think we want to do some homework for this one.
Okay.
We'll do probably one more this weekend if you're able.
Yes, I should be able to.
Okay.
So we'll talk after.
Yeah, this is going to be kind of fun homework here. Your goal is to have a build order written out for me by our next lesson.
How far do you want the build order to go to?
We'll say 60 supply.
To 60 supply. Okay.
Yep. So, just timings based on your supply count. So at 9 I make an overlord. You can discontinue overlords after like 20 supply. I'm not too worried about those. But make sure you're at 15 supply. I make my hatchery. At 22 supply or whatever it may be, I make my first extractor. So that way we can see what structure you currently have in your mind. Because if you have no structure, the process of making that build order, whether it's what you stick to or not, is going to help you get an idea of what you're currently doing.
So this is exclusively for ZVP.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Because I feel like ZVT, I don't think that exercise is really necessary given how well you're doing.
Yeah.
But ZVP, it feels like we played 4 or 5 games and I didn't see the same thing once.
Yeah, that's because I have yet to find out what really works well, at least for me and my play style, against Protoss.
So,
In the early games, I was having a lot of success with early pressure against Protoss. It's working well for me. But I've kind of abandoned that to play more macro-type games.
yeah, that'll only carry you so far. Eventually you'll find they hold it so well you can't macro out of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good choice, and maybe that is part of the adjustment process we're seeing, because you may not have really experienced macro Protoss much at all until recently. So, okay, well, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it on mine. I'll probably cut the recording off here. What about for you?
Yeah, well, we'll cut it off right here. I'm trying to think if there's any last sort of words or requests or anything that I want to say, but nothing jumps out at me. So, once again, I want to thank you guys for watching. This is Joseph Bizarro Soundman signing off for now. And until next time, I hope you'll join us for our third installment. I'm trying to get in some actual, just ladder matches. So me training on the ladder, if I can conceivably do that well and still play a good game and it be entertaining for people to watch and not get my ass handed to me. So that's in the works. But, for now, you guys take care. And if there's any last words you want to put on my recording, Rekatan, now is your chance.
I'm all set over here. Everyone who's new on my YouTube, I appreciate you guys subscribing and tuning in. It's the influx of new viewers. So thanks a bunch for joining me on my side.
Great. All right. I'll see you guys next time.